clear for takeoff.
Good morning, everybody, one and all. This is the Kings of the Heart podcast. Kings of the Heart presents the Royal Cypher. Yes, it's that time again for the entire crew to be here to break down everything relationships for you. My name is Tyreek Omari Walton. I am a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist, joined, of course, by the one and only Dr. John Hart. Dr. Hart, my man John, how you doing, bro? You're still on mute, man. You gotta take it off mute. Yeah, the people want to
So
hear
excited,
you,
I forgot it. Yeah, I got so excited, I forgot to take myself off of mute. But no, I'm blessed. I'm happy to be here. Even more excited for another round of the Cypher. We got the whole crew together. It's been a while, right?
We have the whole. It's been since like December. 3 months.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's been 3 months since we got all of us together. So it's excited. We got something stored real good for the people today, right?
We do. So first, let me introduce the one and only Miss Anisha Prasad. Anisha.
Hey, everybody. Yes, it's so great to be back together. I didn't realize it had been 3 months, but yeah,
3 whole
glad
months.
to be here.
And then we have the other one. We have Miss Weena Wise.
That's right. All the puzzle pieces are clicking this morning. I'm so glad.
Look at that. The crew is here, man. I feel good. I feel good anyway when it's just me and John. But when we have everybody here, when it's a whole Royal Cypher,
yeah,
it's a whole nother level.
Wait a minute. But I noticed that the guys are on the top and the gals are on
that is prearranged by that's not at all by design. That is the program in itself. That is not, you know how we do. We know that's not us. Come on, you know that's not us.
Blame it on the software
all the time. So look, since we have the whole crew here today, and we've been getting to some very heavy subjects for the past couple months or whatever, so we want to kind of make it a little bit more, I don't want to say easy, but we just want to give something a little bit more. I don't know, somebody have the word for me. I can't think of the right word, but just not something so intense. How about that? Something less intense. And so what we wanted to do today was to talk about the importance of dating while married. And we're not talking about dating outside of your marriage. We're talking about dating your spouse, dating your mate. Yeah, that could be confused really quickly.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. During planning this, I think because I was tired, I thought that's what we were talking about. And I was like, "Whoa, we're taking this conversation to greater heights."
Listen, Dr. John, we just finished recapping the show Couple to Thruple on my podcast, and that's what it's all about. So yeah, I was confused too. Let me scratch out some of the stuff that I was going to mention.
Yeah. No, specifically dating your spouse, the person you actually married to. That's what we want to talk about dating. Why it's important to continue to date once you get married, because a lot of people fall off with that for a number of different reasons. We can get into that.
Right.
But let's just start off at the top right there. Why? Why is it important that we continue to take the time, create the opportunities to date and go out and connect with your mate? Who wants to start off?
I can. It's important because you have to be intentional. I think that's what people miss. That they have these ideas of this great, wonderful, connected marriage, but then don't do the things that would maintain it. Like everybody kind of knows what to do when you're dating, and you're much more intentional about scheduling time, about making sure it's kind of romantic and exclusive, but you can just get so caught up when you get married with the day-to-day of life that you forget the just importance of being intentional.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, Weena?
Yeah, life can get pretty one-dimensional when you get into a habit of staying in all the time, falling into the same routines and rituals. And it's important to switch things up. But also to date, it means that you have to do some legwork as well. You got to prepare to be a good date. And I hope that we're going to talk about that today, because a lot of folks don't like to go out on dates with their spouse over time because the conversation gets dry
Mhm.
and they find that they're simply talking about the domesticities of life
Mhm.
on the date.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Dr.
Mhm.
John?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, themes such as, that routine really slows people's ideas around how to continue to spice things up, right? Because it's so mundane, it's comfortable, right? And people get very comfortable in these routines and day-to-day tasks. Um, and I think the other thing that I appreciate that Weena and Anisha touched upon is the intentionality. I think
Mhm.
that's where, because intentionality, that indicates effort, and and without that, things continue to get stale like bread. So it's really important to continue to have those moments where both partners are committed to creating that intentional space for dates.
Yeah, I think the thing that people tend to forget is that as you have gotten married, as you are moving forward into the years, or even early on as you're honeymooning in your marriage, that you still have to maintain and strengthen the bond, that emotional bond. And a lot of people kind of fall off with that. It's like, okay, we're here together now. We don't have to invest in the same amount of energy and time in doing the things that got us here, that we're here, so we should be fine. But no, there are still reasons to look at each other and want to enjoy time away from the regular stuff with
Right.
each other,
Mhm.
and I think as we talk about all these different areas of intimacy, a lot of times we focus on just the main four, which are spiritual, emotional, um physical, and intellectual. But sometimes people throw in a fifth one, which would be experiential. And it's very important to have more experiences with each other. But the
Mhm.
one thing that I find that gets in the way of that is you have a lot of people when they first get together, they're so excited to be together and focus a lot on the physical aspect of it and even some of the emotional, that they realize quickly that they don't have a lot in common. And so after you get past the excitement of just being together, now, well, what are we doing to really, like John said, to spice things up? What are we doing to keep things going, to keep things interesting and exciting in our relationship? And we find out, hey, there are a lot of things that you like that I'm not really into, and things that you're into that I don't really like. So, what do we have to do in order to connect? And so, how do you overcome that hump? For those people who struggle to find things that they have in common with one another, how do you actually um overcome that lack of commonality and interest between couples?
Well, this is my topic. I talk about dating and marrying your opposite all the time
Hmm.
because, as you said, Tyree, people get together and they don't realize that they're only connected around the big picture goals, but their daily compatibility is quite off. And
Right.
now we're in this together. So,
Every
um,
day.
every day until we decide to part or until death do us part. So, the word I like to use is aggressive.
Mm,
You actually have to be aggressive with an opposite partner to find ways that you actually intersect with each other.
mm,
And it may only be a handful of things that you and your partner like to do together. So it's important that you not measure your relationship against the relationships of anybody else, particularly people who
Yeah.
are more alike, because it can make you and your relationship feel quite off and you could become very dissatisfied. So around those handful of things, you have to be intentional about making the time to do them. And you're probably going to have a lot of outside interests and maybe even different types of friends, say
hmm,
friends, platonic relationships, things that bring you joy outside of the relationship. But it's
Mhm.
that much more important to be aggressive about doing the few things that you and your partner have in common together every year so that you two can share a laugh and can feel some type of solidarity and commonality between each other.
hmm.
Mhm.
Sure indeed. Yeah. And when you think about having, looking for those things, what are some genuine steps in order to find some of those commonalities? What are some of the things that people should be doing to find the things that they may enjoy in common with their mate?
Well, I love suggesting very new experiences.
Mm,
You know,
okay.
with the internet, and say things like those platforms like Groupon and um,
Living social.
yeah, living so
Yeah.
like all of those things where there'd be all these suggestions. Like you can get on a board where it'll just shoot you like what's going on in the area for the weekend, and
Hmm.
maybe some discounts or specials or things free, especially in the DMV area where we are. There's always something going on. And so I
Hmm.
think it's fun, especially like we know what you were saying when you find that, oh, we don't have a lot that we have in common. Let's try something completely different that
Yeah.
neither of us have done, and let's figure it out. Maybe there's something we do find, but even just the shared experience of something new
Yeah.
can be really great.
Yeah.
I have to throw this in there though, because often one partner finds that the most common problem with their partner is that they don't like to try new things, and the partner
Mm,
does.
right.
So you're absolutely right. Getting out there and trying new experiences is one of the most common ways to find similarities and just make a memory even if neither of you like the experience. But
Yeah.
when you have a partner who doesn't like to try new things, doesn't like to try new foods, gives the side eye to stuff that sounds exotic or outside of their comfort zone, then on some levels, that person has to be willing to take the reins and take the lead and help to lead you as a couple into some safer choices. And it's a give and take. They have to try some new things, but to expect that they're going to do a lot is unrealistic. But
Mhm.
then they also have to take responsibility for the fact that now what we can do is quite limited, and they
Right.
don't just get off the hook for it because they don't like to try new things. What do y'all
Right.
think?
Yeah. I mean, you have that component where people don't like to try new things.
Yeah.
And I think what may contribute to that also is that people are afraid of not experiencing having a good time. A lot of people may not want to try new things because they believe that they're not going to enjoy it.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
hear that a lot. Well, I don't want to say I hear it a lot, but I've heard it with couples where someone will question absolutely everything that their mate is trying to plan because they want to guarantee that they're going to have a good time. And there's
Mhm.
never a guarantee. So some people just resign themselves to doing nothing because they rather do nothing and be comfortable with the things that they know than to try new things and find out that they don't actually enjoy it. It's almost like people are so afraid of disappointment that they rather just do nothing at all.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think I agree with everyone. I'm just sitting here and just nodding my head because each of you shared things that I've talked to my couples about, and I think some of the things I'll just highlight is I love what Weena said because I totally agree. Like it's definitely a give and take. Like it can't be this all or nothing phenomenon where it's, oh, I don't like that, so we're not going to do it. I think both parties have to really be thoughtful and very considerate. I think the person who, to Weena's point, has to take the lead. Yeah, like that's a lot, but it doesn't mean that that will necessarily be the case, like all the time moving forward, right? The goal is to get some kind of momentum, and I think couples lose momentum in that day
Mhm.
to day grind, the mundane.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
I think what I will add is that, Tariq's point, I mean, and I'm just speaking from personal experience as well. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong at the end of the day of going out to go try something and it doesn't go well. At least you're there with your
Yeah,
partner.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
take
right,
that
exactly.
L together. My wife and I have definitely taken L's. Like we've
right.
come up with ideas, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't good. And she's like, yeah, this isn't good. But you know what? We laugh about it. We were able to step away from the house and the kids. So it's not necessarily this like, all game sum kind of like dynamic. And I think we all have to do better. Like
Mm,
that idea of I'm afraid because I won't have a good time. So what? Like it's better to not have a good time with your partner than to be there by yourself looking
right.
simple. So you might as well try to reframe this as, hey, we stepped away for some time. We tried our best. And the other thing I'll say too, and then I'll stop, is there's something also about, I think Anisha was talking about this, is the planning is very critical. And one of the things that I always tell folks is have the planning be as fun and intentional, and let it be collaborative. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to, do everything, but at least try to make the planning not as gruesome. So even for the people who don't like to come up with ideas, well, to Wena's point, like, open up. Like, what are some of the activities you want to do? Can we combine this? Because, like, there's joy in just being together that is also a part of the process of dating, right? We're
Mm,
planning,
Mhm.
it fell through, so let's regroup.
right.
All to me, all healthy indicators for a couple to really explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the essential thing there too is that it's not always about the activity. It's the fact that you're spending time with your mate. That's the whole
Yes.
point. You're going on a
Exactly.
date with your mate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even if it's a horrible occasion, you were there with your mate. It's about that quality time that you guys are spending together and you guys connecting, you guys bonding. And you may bond over something absolutely horrible. But if you're focused so much on what you're doing and
Mhm.
thinking, okay, well,
Right.
I may not enjoy this or I just don't want to do. No, the point is, how
To
are you
be
spending
together.
time with your mate? And
Mhm.
that's what we want to really focus on. How do you spend time with your mate?
Mhm. But I do want to say, like, going back to what you were saying, John, with the planning, and Weena, when you were saying like the give and take, one of the common themes that comes up often is a sense of imbalance, where there's one person who's really the planner
Yeah.
and does things. And so it can, unless they just fully embrace that role and like, yes, I know this is what I do. And that's, but a lot of time, very often, there's a sense of resentment
Mhm.
because someone feels like they're the ones having to carry the emotional weight of everything, right? Like
Hmm.
if they stop the planning, we would never go anywhere.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that
Yep.
that sense of like you're not as invested as I am, in making sure that we, connect.
Yeah.
That's so important. And John, when you were talking about the importance of doing it together, another common thing that I think we see from start to finish with couples, and it shows up in dating, is this lack of a shared definition of togetherness. So you
Mm.
have
Good point. Yeah.
couples who come into marriages and both partners think without checking that they have the same definition of
Hmm.
togetherness.
Good
Hmm.
point.
And I have a togetherness contract that I go over with all of my partners so that we can get on one page about what togetherness is. And one of the things that I define is that togetherness means that both partners are invested and willing to collaborate in the planning of not
Hmm.
just dates, but things like the grocery list and where
Mhm.
the kids are going to go to school and whatnot. Because to Anisha's point, we end up in a space in relationships where one person thinks that, oh, you're so good at it, so I'll just let you
Right.
quarterback that. Or I'm so tired, or I'm just a unilateral thinker.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
Right.
either I'm doing all of the planning and it's going to go my way and you stay out of it, or you do it and I'll stay out of it. And it becomes so grueling for the
Yeah.
person who wants to collaborate when they realize their partner is not interested in sitting down and having the patience to plan out dates together, because it means we're going to take a couple passes at this. You may throw out something that I don't like, and vice versa. And it might not be as easy if you decided we're just doing what you want to do right now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's essential. It's essential to actually
Agreed.
collaborate and have both people working. I have couples who, like you said, someone will complain because they're doing all the planning and their mate isn't contributing. They're not actually doing the planning. They're not putting themselves out there and they're not trying. And that lack of effort will eventually turn to resentment for the other partner.
Hmm.
But this is my other question. We're talking about the importance of dating. Well, what's the danger of not dating? What's the danger to the healthier relationship if you aren't planning different occasions to go out and enjoy each other and have that quality time? What could potentially happen to your relationship if you aren't actually dating?
Well, I believe, and I try to point this out to people, like these are those, what are they calling it? The silver divorce, right?
Oh,
This is
yeah.
this
Great
is
gray hair
that.
divorce. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, right. Like the two parallel lines that, start out with just the little slight deviation, but like years later, like you're so far
Hmm.
apart that if you allow yourself to just fall into the trap of just managing the household and who's picking up the kids, and you don't nurture the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
that you will find yourself looking at each other, years down the road in retirement, when you're suddenly with each other so much more than
Yep.
you've ever been, when the
Right.
kids have
Yep.
just left and you're like, I'm not sure if I even like you, right?
Right.
Because we haven't nurtured that, and we are not static people. We're growing and we're changing all the time. And if you don't build that space and that time to connect, it's not just about having fun, right?
I
It's also
agree.
just
I
like
agree.
you were saying, like just being together, just being in each other's presence, talking about things other than the kids and work and
Exactly.
whatever, but just who you are as a person. Like if we don't spend that time, then years down the road, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think one thing that was coming to my mind, Rick, about your question is, even from an individual standpoint, going out on dates and just doing things together, I think also stimulates us as individuals to step
Mm,
outside our day-to-day roles. And without
Right.
stepping outside of our day-to-day roles, how what other space do you have when you're working, you got kids, you got all of that? What other space do you have to really touch back in with yourself and get excited, and that's where some of these activities do kind of feed the soul. And so if there's a process, whether it's like physical, psychological, spiritual, or whatever, that the dates also give us the time and the space, to really step outside of these identities and roles, and we get
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
to be our authentic selves, which is why, again, as we're saying, be open, because who knows that when you've been grinding it out with the kids and work, you didn't realize that over that course of the year that you actually developed an interest in art. And but
Mm.
now you step outside of that role of being a parent and all of that, and you're just hanging out and you're on dates, you realize that, oh, I like, that's the newness that I think we were speaking to earlier. Like, there's an individual component that people can also start to live their lives, and why not share that with their partner as well?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. Right.
My mind is
Yeah.
working over here. Yeah, because I'm thinking about the nature of an affair and how often when we sit with
Mm.
partners and one has violated an agreement, um, they may list that the person they're having the affair with sees them,
Hmm.
Right.
knows them as who they are now
Right.
versus who you may have been when you first got married 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. And John, you just triggered that memory that often we forget to purposefully check in on how our partners are evolving.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Hmm.
Right.
That's what I was
And
getting
when
at.
you don't check in on how your partner is evolving, they feel less seen.
Yep.
Hmm.
And when you start
Hmm.
to feel less seen, it can make for a very vulnerable relationship because if someone else comes along and sees you differently or takes an interest in who you are and asks the questions or seems to be a breath of fresh air, because
Hmm.
we hear that a lot as well,
Hmm.
Mm.
then you have to be careful because it could lead to you developing a level of intimacy which dates are supposed to provide with someone else versus your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well said. Yep.
Yeah.
The thing that I often consider here is that when you aren't dating each other, when you aren't spending that time, when you aren't making the room for each other anymore, is that again that emotional bond isn't being nurtured.
Right.
And you have a lot of people who come in complaining about a lack of physical intimacy. Well, one of the reasons why the physical intimacy has fallen off is because that emotional intimacy hasn't been nurtured.
Hmm.
And what contributes to the emotional intimacy? The intellectual intimacy, the experiential intimacy, having those experiences with one another allows that bond to continue to grow and to solidify. But when you don't do it, yeah, it's easy to forget about each other. It's easy to forget who the other person is or not see who they are now versus who they were. You're no longer growing together. So without that, all the other parts of your relationship begin to fade away a little bit. And it makes it harder to connect if you're not taking that time to see each other and be with each other individually. Now you have children. I get it. Your kids are going to take a lot of your attention. They're going to take a lot of your time. You have, if you want to go out on a date, you're going to have to find somebody to care for your children. And a lot of times you have people who don't have that kind of support system, and so they don't have they're not making the time. They struggle to find the time for one another. But again, it's essential to the healthier relationship. It's essential. Nisha, you look
It
like you want to
is.
jump in there.
Yeah, yeah. You're making me think about some things that have come up very recently that, just keep coming up, and how, especially like new parents, there might be some anxiety
Yeah,
about leaving the kids, right? And like who they're with and whatever. And I always like stress how important it is to build a network of support, of
right.
people
Mhm.
that you can trust, because it's not just about you. You also need to model for your children, right? Healthy balance. You need to model for your
Absolutely.
children that I am more than just a mom. I'm more than just a dad, right? That there's something outside of you, right? So you do that, that pours into, like, when you solidify the foundation of your marriage, which dating and being intentional does, like, it's better for your kids. But we
Mhm.
do have a lot of people, especially right now, like, my parents used to talk about, just the community of people that kind of raised them. We're living in a time now where people feel very isolated. Maybe you've
Yeah.
moved and you don't have family that's nearby. And so you
Mhm.
do
Fearful,
have to be, I'm sorry?
fearful too. People who are
Yes,
fearful. That's why they're isolating themselves.
yes. Um, but you have to, using Wena's word, be aggressive about creating a network and creating opportunities and spaces, for you all to just get away and be adults, and to be just a loving couple.
Hmm. Yeah, my brother and I still joke about that to this day. When we were younger, our parents would drop us off at the skating rink like every Saturday afternoon for like 4 hours and just disappear.
Hmm.
It's like, yo, who does it? Who just gets rid of your kids like that? But
Hmm.
that's how it was, when we were coming up. And they were dating, they were going out, and we still don't know what they were doing and afraid to ask. But they were spending their time, they were going out and dating.
Hmm.
They would have regular dates, and they modeled that for us.
Yeah.
And so we recognize how that contributed to them being able to bond and focus on the couple, because without that part, you know, I mean, we probably would have been able to interfere a lot more with the decisions they were making. But they made sure that they spent that time together bonding and strengthening their relationship so that the kids wouldn't come in and disrupt things too much. But yeah, it's essential to model that, right?
I gotta throw out here to all you smart ones, life be lifing, and a babysitter costs so much
Hmm.
that by the time, you've paid a babysitter for 4 hours, to your point, Tyreek, you may be out of 80 to $100
Right.
Yeah.
to just go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just want to acknowledge how hard it is out here. The things that we're asking couples to do with young kids, and don't let them have more than one, because that's double the
Mm,
price. It's hard.
No, I
And
But
know.
and to those, right.
it's not insurmountable though. And like I challenge people to kind of think outside of the box and be creative about it. Like, you are in the same situation as, the other preschool parents in the class, right? And so if we develop kind of a shared, I'll take your kids this weekend, you got mine next weekend, kind of that there, we can do trade-offs too.
Yeah,
But people have to be open to those things. I
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
think
the other thing
the
too,
way
though.
that
Yeah.
our culture and our society is moving now, like you said, Tariq, like there's just this amplification of fear,
Yeah.
and no one is gonna,
They don't trust anybody.
yes, right,
Hmm.
no one's gonna take care of my child the way that I do, and all that. And I get that, but at the same time, like, we've got to start building those support networks so that people are there.
Hmm. Yeah, Dr. John, I heard you about to jump in there because I know this is something that you experience, like currently.
Well, yeah. I mean, the twins are 2 months away from being 2 years old, so like it was. I mean, and again, I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but I know for me and my wife, like the first year was like extremely hard and rough, even with family support. But I think what helped us is, we were able to go out on dates a couple of times, but we were also very intentional about like talking a lot about about it, right? Like there has to be a level of communication that needs to be open and vulnerable, and I think like that was one of the most important things for us, is that yeah, we weren't going out as much as we were going on dates, before the twins. But I tell you one thing, we were talking about it like quite often we were talking about like what we're missing. We were trying to be creative. And so I'm not being cliche, nor am I saying that like what we did is like, the beacon of hope. But I know one piece of advice that I would give is that even when life is lifing, as it's been with us, like what has kept us very strong is like intentionally having conversations about it, intentionally talking about, not just ideas, but even that planning. And that's why I was stressing the planning, because like as a father of almost 2-year-old twins, like that goes a long way, because that's part of being seen. I think it was
Yeah.
very helpful. I felt seen when my wife was like, yeah, like I want us to do something, but we're stuck. Like, let's figure it out. And even if the plans fell through, like that went a long way. Like that
Mhm.
built
Mhm.
that, like, hey, we're in this together. And when I
Mhm.
did it for my wife, hey, I miss you. I don't know, but I want to do something Saturday. Can we figure it out? Even if it fell through with the twins Saturday morning, whether it was with family helping out or whatever, like my wife still appreciated that. And I
Mhm.
think like we can't
Yeah.
overlook that. You got to stay communicating, because
Yeah.
if you don't, then it is you talking about like a couple being isolated from community. You're isolating each other. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
like let's
Yeah.
also give credit to that. That I when I even think about it personally, that like that's what kept us like really going. And we
Yeah.
did go out on dates. I'm not gonna sit here and act like we did. We've done a really great job of doing that. But even if you ask my wife, it was those conversations like constantly going that really kept our spirits up. And
Mhm.
so for what it's worth, like I just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah. So, what would be some creative dates for couples to go on, whether they're new parents or people who've been together for 30 years and kind of falling off? What would be some creative dates that would kind of spark that rhythm again for one another?
I want to share this great idea from these were actually coworkers.
All right.
They called it Sweetheart Day.
Hmm.
And once a month, there was a day that was just reserved for each other. And they alternated the months who was responsible for kind of initiating it and planning it. Right. And so it could be any day of the month, but frequently it might be a work day, right, where they both took off.
Hmm.
And so
Nice.
if you have kids, the kids are in school or at
True.
daycare. There's time that is already like accounted for, so that helped. But it, from kind of sun up to sundown, that was your day. It was our day together, your day to kind of plan and put things together. And it just sounded like so much fun. And I remember one of the things that they did, they just bought a new house. And so it was the wife's turn to plan. And so she'd gone out and got a canvas and paint that coordinated with the living room, and they created art for
Hmm.
the wall,
That's
right?
beautiful.
Isn't that?
It's a great
Um,
idea. Yeah.
so just things like that. But their friends, right, knew, okay, it's Sweetheart Day. Oh, we're not calling them. We already know,
Right.
right? People around. But having that expectation that at least once a month, we're going to be connected, be together, alternating who was responsible for what. And you had that gives you like 2 months for you to
Hmm.
think through what your next thing was. But it helped for them to keep that balance in terms of planning.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. One of
Yeah.
the cool things that I stumbled across in the last year are mystery dates.
Hmm.
And
Break that down.
there is a company that sponsors different types of mystery date experiences in different cities all over the US. So you go to the website, and if we need to drop information, then we can, Tyreek. And you pay for this mystery date, and you start at a particular point on a day that you and your partner choose, and you get a clue.
Hmm.
And the clues basically take you to 5 or 6 different spots in the city that you're in. And at
Hmm.
each point, you're going to a restaurant, and they're giving you different foods that they specialize in making, different drinks, desserts. And so by the end, you have accumulated a picnic worth of food, and you've also seen different neighborhoods in the city. And after you're finished, of course, you can go and take your picnic wherever you like, but they usually cause you to end at a very scenic place, like on the water, or where there's a beautiful something to look at. And the fun of it, of course, is solving those clues, figuring out where you're going next. And it sometimes takes you to different stores and venues that you haven't tried before. And then afterwards, you get to eat and you get to fellowship with each other. And it is a very fun way to have something to engage in, not have to think about what you're going to eat at the end of the day because they've already planned it for you and you've put your dietary restrictions in and all of that stuff before. You can have alcohol or not. You get to choose all of that stuff. And it's pretty economical to do it.
Mm,
So, not something that you do maybe every day, but definitely something that you could do once a month and have a good time.
I
nice.
love that. That sounds
Yeah, that's
great.
real cool.
That's
You
Yeah,
could
like I
good.
plan
want
that
that
on your
info. Like,
own,
oh,
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Dr. John? What you got?
I mean, one thing that I've been thinking about recently, and again, I don't know if this would be called creative, but we all live where we live, and I think it's always interesting and exciting to go explore the different parts of where you live that you
Mm,
don't.
yep.
I mean, you just go get in your car and say like, "Oh, I've never been to this county or this city." Just go drive over there and just go explore. Like,
Hmm.
like no harm in it. Plus, I've said to a couple one time, it ends up being a day of you don't know how this is going to turn out, right? But
mm-hmm.
you're just in a new part of a
Yeah.
city, and you don't have to, really be committed to anything. But you go to a city, you find a county or a city that you haven't explored yet, right? Because we're always confined in our little communities. So, but there's so much out there. Even the next city next door is what I told them. Just go check out the city next door. And they thought it was like a really cool idea because they're like, hey, all we know is like, our 5 mile radius. And
Hmm.
Mm,
so something like that is definitely up there for me in terms of a potential creative idea.
Hmm.
great. I would say that, it's really important to understand what makes a good date. And to me, what makes a good date is being present with your mate and then also being mindful of, your surroundings and making sure that, whatever the day it is, you guys are really focused on spending that time together and being together. Like going to the movies is great. That's a great experience, right? But you're not focused on each other. And so the dates that you go on, make sure that there's something that you guys are interacting in, right? And so even something as simple as going for a walk. I know that doesn't sound super creative, but even just going for a walk where you guys are engaged and looking at the world around you, again, being mindful of your surroundings, but you're present with your mate. So whether you're holding hands or just, chit-chatting, whatever, and being observational around the things that are happening in your presence in your environment. But it's just important to make sure that you're focusing on connecting with your mate, being very intentional about connecting with your mate. So everything that you guys said is about how are you guys connecting. So if it's a mystery date, well, there's an intellectual component to that. So
Right.
you guys are kind of, tapping into that intellectual intimacy. Whatever it is, it's important to focus on connecting with your mate, not just being there, not just being in their presence, but being present with them.
Hmm.
Right. So even just something as simple as walking, I love walking tours. And so whether you're going
Yeah.
on
Ooh,
vacation or if you're
Yeah.
Yeah,
just,
same,
in the city that you're in,
same.
hey, go on a walking tour.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah,
so many of the cities, especially in this area. And I know we're
exactly.
worldwide. We're worldwide,
Exactly.
so people have their different areas, but you'll have beautiful architecture in all these different places. You'll have these beautiful parks that you are kind of tucked away that you've never seen before, never even heard
Exactly.
about. Get
Exactly.
out and just be observational about your environment. Share those experiences with each other because that's the whole point. How are you connecting with each other? That's what we want to
Hmm.
focus on when we think about going on these dates. So hey, look at again, great to have everybody here to talk about this wonderful topic of going on dates. So before we leave, why don't we give the listeners our noble truths? What are those highlights from today's conversation that you want them to walk away with? Who wants to go first? Batter, batter, batter.
I would
well,
just say what I started out with was just be intentional. Like, know that you have to put in the time, the effort, the energy to connect.
Yep. Okay.
yeah, and be aggressive if you discover that you're in an opposites relationship, about finding the handful of things that you and your partner can connect on, and don't measure your relationship against the relationships of other
Absolutely.
people
Right.
who have other similarities or more things in common than you and your spouse.
That is the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll say, as I stressed earlier, collaborate. Okay, like this is a joint effort. It's a team effort. The great thing about collaborating is from the planning, the implementing, and then who knows, even the debrief after. It's been a collaborative experience, and that's what we're stressing here. It's to benefit both parties, so that way we, continue to increase that emotional connection between us. So I'd say be collaborative, and things will be really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, my main thing is don't pretend like you got a choice in this, okay? Dating is essential for the healthier relationship. You don't have a choice. All right. So take the time to be intentional, make your plans. It's not easy. You have people who are so focused on, well, I just like spontaneity. You can't be spontaneous all the time. So
Mhm.
sometimes you
Yeah,
actually have to make
Mhm.
a plan. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
make your plans, be intentional, explore new things with your mate. Don't get caught up in the things that you don't have in common. Try and find things that you do have in common. Create those new experiences. But more than anything, you don't have a choice. All right. You don't have a choice. You want to have a healthy relationship, you must date your mate. Again, not anybody outside your relationship. You must date your
Yes.
mate. That is
that's
essential.
another topic. That's another
Right.
topic.
All right. We'll say that one for another Royal
Yeah,
Cypher
that's
date.
another topic. Yeah.
That's my main thing. So guys, again, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for all being here. Why don't you guys tell everyone where you can find out more? Weena, we'll start off with you. Tell them where you can find out more about you and what you got going on.
Well, if you are interested in therapy or information regarding mental health and wellness, definitely check me out at covenanttherapy.com, where I have a group practice. And you can also catch more entertaining topics like this one on my podcast, The Wise Ones.
Yeah.
Follow me on social
Yeah.
media at Weena Wise.
Mhm.
All right. Anisha, what about you?
I'm just at www.growthpointtherapy.com. Like we get to this part and I'm like, oh, I should be doing more. Like I will. But right now, just grinding it out. But you can find me there.
That's right. Dr. John.
I think I'm doing too much.
Hey,
Amen.
share
uh,
with Anisha. Give her some of your
oh
jobs, man.
man, like you type in Dr. John Hart, there's going to be a lot of things that I'm doing. I'm up to. But of course, like come check us out on kingsoftheheart.com. We're doing a lot of great stuff. We have a really fun, filled, interesting year ahead of us. So come show love. Our podcast is on all the major streaming platforms. So check that out. In terms of therapy, any kind of assistance you need, come check out the Relationship Counseling Center of Maryland. That's RCC Maryland. Spell out the Maryland.com. And I'm just continuing to create change in communities across the nation with all the efforts that I'm doing at the Bureau of Institute of Justice. So, yeah, pretty busy, but also trying to make a change. So, thank you.
As well as taking care of those twins that you just talked about.
And what?
Almost 2 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's right. Where did the time go?
I'm telling you, right? I'm
It's
telling you,
flown.
a few more gray hairs have kind of slid in. So
Mm,
it's
mm,
it's
mm.
it's been humbling.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
brother Reed, what about you, bro?
for me, like Dr. John said, you can catch us at kingsoftheheart.com or Kings of the Heart streaming everywhere worldwide. We have the video component, the audio component. We are everywhere you want to be. You can also check out more about me and my private practice at insightmft.com or find out more about me at TariqOmariWalton.com. That sounds very self-indulgent, doesn't it? Anyway,
I thought it was
uh,
bighead.com, but thank you for
stop
correcting
hating,
me.
Weena Wise. Stop your hating.
That is, oh man, that's
But yeah, but
hilarious.
look it again. It was wonderful having the entire family here today. Great to see you
Amen.
guys.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
telling you, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Hopefully, we can do this all again sooner than 3 months from now.
Not
Yeah.
my fault.
Um,
I was here.
That's on me.
The
but look,
twins. Blame it on the
Yeah,
blame it
twins.
on the
it
twins.
was.
Always, always,
Yeah,
always.
always. Yeah.
All right, guys. But good to see you, listeners. Check us out. Kings of the Heart everywhere. Cypher 3. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Royal Cypher. Royal Cypher. Royal Cypher. Anyway, guys, look, take care of yourselves. We love you, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.